بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم First reading is chapter 5, verse 32. من أجل ذلك كتبنا على بني إسرائيل أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا ولقد جاءتهم رسلنا بالبينات ثم إن كثيرا منهم بعد ذلك في الأرض لمسرفون. For this reason, we prescribed for the children of Israel that whoever kills a person unless it is for manslaughter or mischief in the land. It is as though he had killed all humankind. And whoever saves a life, it is as though he had saved the lives of all humans. And indeed, our messengers came to them with clear arguments. But even after that, many of them continued to commit excesses in the land. The next one is chapter 4, verse 29. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم لا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما. O you who believe, devour not your property among yourselves by illegal methods, except that it be trading by your mutual consent. And kill not your people. Surely Allah is ever merciful. Chapter 2, I just translate the English here, verses 190 to 192. O you who believe, do not swallow up your property. Sorry, reading the old translation. Chapter 2, verse 190 to 192. And fight in the way of Allah against those who fight against you. But do not be aggressive. Surely Allah does not love the aggressors. And kill them wherever you find them and drive them out of where they drove you out. Because persecution is worse than slaughter. But do not fight with them at the sacred mosque until they fight with you in it. So if they fight you in it, kill them. Such is the recompense of the disbelievers. But if they cease fighting, then surely Allah is forgiving, merciful. Fight them until there is no persecution and religion is only for Allah. But if they cease, then there should be no hostility except against the oppressors. In chapter 4, verse 135. Again, I'll just read the English translation. O you who believe, be maintainers of justice, bearers of witness for Allah, even if it's against your own selves, or your parents, or near relatives, whether he is rich or poor. Allah has a better right over both of them. So do not follow your low desires in case you deviate. And if you distort the truth or turn away from the truth, surely Allah knows of what you do. And I have some sayings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. In Bukhari, hadith number 5778, and in Muslim, it's number hadith 109. The Holy Prophet is reported to have said, whoever takes his own life with something in this world will be punished with it on the day of resurrection. And then in Abu Dawud, there is a hadith, do not kill women or children or non-combatants, and do not kill the old or religious people. This is Abu Dawud, hadith number 2614. And again, in the collection of Muslim, hadith number 1731 says, do not betray, do not be excessive, and do not kill any children. I have recited these ahadith and the verses of the Holy Quran because we've just gone through the seven points. And every Muslim must, of course, condemn random, thoughtless acts of violence because the teachings of Islam, as I outlined above, require us to do so. Our scholars advise us to follow the Sunnah or the actions of the Holy Prophet. Consider what happened after the Battle of Badr, when, for the first time, Muslims had to resist an army that had set out to destroy. After the Muslim victory at Badr, the Holy Prophet decided that the wealthy prisoners of war would be released if they paid compensation. Those who can read and write will be freed if they can teach, if each one of them can teach 10 Muslims to read and write. And those who don't have any skills and who don't have any money were freed anyway as a favor. After the conquest of Makkah, the Quraysh was vanquished. As the Muslim army entered Makkah, the Holy Prophet ﷺ issued orders that there was to be no killing. More importantly, he forgave his persecutors for the murder, the torture, and persecution that all Muslims, including he himself, had endured. Remember, this mercy was shown after repeated attempts to annihilate Muslims, first in Makkah and then in Medina, including the incidents like the Battle of the Trench, when the opposing army was so large that the Muslims had to dig a ditch around Medina to protect it. And they were all starving because no food was allowed in Medina. This mercy was shown after all these events. This was not limited to the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when Muslims entered Jerusalem during Hazrat Umar's reign. There was no bloodshed. Those who could not accept Muslim rule were permitted to leave with their possessions. I think Hazrat Umar said, as much as you can of your possessions that you can put on 2 horses or 2 camels, you can take with you. In contrast, Crusaders' conquest of Jerusalem involved violence and mayhem and murder and killing to such an extent that when they entered Jerusalem, their horses were ankle deep in the blood, not just of Muslims, but Jews as well. But remember, Islam is not a pacifist religion. It doesn't say just put up with persecution. It teaches Muslims to defend themselves. But what it forbids is revenge or retribution after they have succeeded in putting an end to persecution. It's interesting that the West conveniently closes their eyes to what they have done. And I invite them to reflect on their own behavior. This is not an excuse for 7/7. because each of us follows our moral code. And what was done was against our moral code. But when you boast to Muslims about how admirable your humanitarian behavior is, I have to point out to you, the British, for example, the murder of the Irish by the British Army, murder of the Irish who wanted freedom, who wanted independence. That was just such a heinous crime. The killing of thousands of unarmed people, Indians, in Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar, by General Dyer, opening fire on men, women, and children, killing thousands. And then, interestingly, people in England, when people of India tried to sue him for genocide, people of England raised funds, voluntary contributions to defend General Dyer. The British demand for reparations from Germans after the First World War, that British, American, French, they were all in it, which was so heavy that the whole German nation, fell into famine, and thousands died of starvation because they couldn't afford to buy any food or even clothes. The killing of 2 million Bengalis by starvation on Churchill's orders, because it was more important that ships laden with food be redirected to Europe to feed the British Army. And Churchill's comment should be remembered by everyone who treats him as a hero. Churchill said, "Oh, there are too many of them anyway. A few's death won't matter." It mattered to their wives, to their mothers, to their brothers. It didn't matter to you, Mr. Churchill, but it mattered to them. Carpet bombing by the Americans and the British of German cities. I went to Germany, must have been in 1969 or 70, and I saw parts of Hamburg and other cities which was still derelict. Even after all that time, nearly 25 years later, Germans still hadn't managed to rebuild them. Giving away of Palestine by the British to European Zionists for their support in the First and the Second World Wars. American atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the West tells us they're responsible and they deserve to have atom bombs, but Muslims are irresponsible, who've never used an atom bomb. Chemical warfare in Korea and Vietnam to deforest the whole area. Because Viet Cong in particular were hiding in the jungles and they couldn't be seen by planes. So chemicals were sprayed over large areas of South Vietnam, North Vietnam, Korea, to kill all vegetation. And remember, these chemicals found their way into rivers. And that water, polluted water, was used by people to drink and wash. And for many years after, just like after the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, people were dying of cancer caused by radiation. For many years, people in Vietnam and South Korea were dying of cancer caused by these chemicals. Efforts by the British and the French to forcibly take over and occupy the Suez Canal. And the list goes on. But I don't have time to list every heinous crime that the West has committed. That includes the French and the Germans and the British and the Americans. For example, when French gave so-called independence to their African colonies, they made it the condition that those people will not make any decision without French approval. They made it a condition that all their money will be kept in the central bank in France, and it will be up to France to approve what the government of that country spends it on. Who are you to tell people? Who are you to ride your moral high horse after what you've done in places like Algeria, torturing and murdering people in Libya and Algeria and other places in North Africa to try and keep them as French colonies? But this brings us to the West's current support for the Zionists in Israel, despite the genocide that is taking place in Gaza. You ask people to condemn the Hamas October attacks on Israel. And I ask, which British politician, which American politician has condemned what Israel has been doing in Gaza and the West Bank in general? Only yesterday, people who gathered at a health center were attacked and murdered. Was there a squeak from Keith Starmer, from Donald Trump, from anyone? Even a past president of America, even a past prime minister of Britain, they tremble at the thought of condemning the Zionists. But they are free with their condemnation of Palestinians and Arabs and Muslims. I could mention many other things, but I want to tell my Muslim brothers and sisters, do not stoop to the low level of your persecutors. Let us strengthen our defenses without relying on the West. Let's rely on each other, while also showing the West that our religion, our moral values do not permit us to degrade ourselves to the level to which the Zionists in Israel and Western politicians and other leaders have followed. This was the example set by the Holy Prophet Muhammad and his companions, that when persecuted, they defended themselves, if need be, by force. But when they overcame persecution, they forgave their persecutors. Remember the Holy Prophet Muhammad's words when he entered Makkah and he gathered the leaders of the Quraysh and asked them after what they had done to him and Muslims over a prolonged period. We are talking nearly a quarter of a century, not one day, 1 week, 1 month. How they expect to be treated. Remember what he said. Today, you're all forgiven and free to return to your homes and to your business. There will be no revenge this day. That is your moral character. That is the person that you have to follow. So rise above your anger, justified anger, and your wish to take revenge. Show the world that you follow much higher moral principles. And this is why people should embrace Islam. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم إنه تعالى جواد كريم ملك بر الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وجعلنا منهم من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يحكم بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين الحاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده ربنا الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you for joining us for today's service. I hope we'll see you next week. And I take my leave of you with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, you are lucky. The whole of humanity safe and sound, free from harm and under his protection. Assalamu alaikum. Khuda Hafiz.